My name is Charlotte Hayes and I'm 32 years old. Today I'm standing in the hospital corridor watching my mother through the small window in the ICU door, and for the first time in my life I feel absolutely nothing. The machines beep steadily. Her chest rises and falls under the thin blanket. The nurse just told me she's stable, that she's going to make it, that I should be relieved. But all I can think about is what she said to me 6 months ago, the last time we spoke. You were the worst mistake I ever made. And now here I am, the only emergency contact they could reach, the daughter she erased from every family photo, standing between her and the choice I never thought I'd have to make. You see, my mother didn't just say hurtful things. She built an entire life around pretending I didn't exist. And when she gets out of this hospital bed, when she opens her eyes and sees me standing there, she's going to realize that the daughter she threw away is now the only person who can save her from losing everything she has left. If you want to know how a mother can look her own child in the eyes and say, "You ruined my life," and then end up completely at that child's mercy, stay with me until the very end, because this story doesn't start in a hospital. It starts 32 years ago when I was born, and my mother's perfect life fell apart. I grew up knowing I wasn't wanted, not in the way some kids suspect it or feel it in quiet moments. I knew it because my mother told me, constantly, "You were an accident, Charlotte. I had plans, I had a career, then you happened." She'd say it while folding laundry, while driving me to school, while signing permission slips she resented having to sign. My father left when I was 3. I don't remember him. What I do remember is my mother blaming me for his departure. He couldn't handle the responsibility. A baby he never wanted tied him down. You tied us both down. I was 7 when she started introducing me differently at her work events. She was a marketing executive, always dressed sharp, always commanding the room. When colleagues asked about family, she'd smile and say, "Oh, I'm married to my career. No kids." I'd be standing right there, holding her purse, wearing the dress she'd picked out that morning, invisible. By the time I was 12, I'd learned to make myself smaller. I stopped asking her to come to school plays, stopped showing her my report cards, stopped expecting her to remember my birthday without a reminder from her assistant. When I turned 16, she sat me down at the kitchen table with a folder. Inside were brochures for boarding schools. "I think it's time you had some independence," she said, not looking at me. "These are excellent institutions, you'll thrive there." What she meant was, "I want you gone." I didn't fight it. I packed my things, went to boarding school 3 states away, and called home twice a year. She never called me, not once. College was the same. I worked 3 jobs to pay for it because she'd made it clear that funding my education wasn't her priority. "You're an adult now, Charlotte, figure it out." So I did. I graduated with honors, got a job in graphic design, built a life that had nothing to do with her. For years, we existed in parallel universes. She had her career, her friends, her perfect child-free life that she broadcasted on social media with carefully curated photos of exotic vacations and elegant dinner parties. I had my small apartment, my freelance clients, my quiet existence. We were fine as long as we stayed apart. Then 3 years ago, something shifted. My mother remarried. His name was Robert, a wealthy investor 15 years older than her, recently widowed with 2 adult children of his own. Suddenly, my mother was playing stepmother. Suddenly, she was posting photos with her family, Robert's kids smiling beside her at holiday dinners, yacht trips, charity galas. And suddenly, I started getting calls. "Charlotte, I think it's time we mended things," she said one afternoon, her voice syrupy sweet. "Robert's children are wonderful, but I've been thinking about you, about us. I should have known better, I should have recognized the performance. But part of me, the part that was still that 7-year-old holding her purse, wanted to believe her. I'd like that," I said carefully. "Maybe we could have dinner. Of course, I'll have my assistant set something up." Dinner never happened, neither did coffee, neither did any of the vague plans she floated and then cancelled last minute. What did happen was this: I started noticing her posts. Photos with Robert's daughter, captions like, "So grateful for my beautiful girl." Photos with Robert's son, captions like, "My son, my pride." Never me, never a mention of Charlotte. Then one day I got a LinkedIn message from one of her colleagues. "Hey, I didn't know your mom had stepkids. She talks about them all the time. You must be so happy to have siblings now." I star. Edit that message for a long time. She wasn't just pretending I didn't exist. She was actively replacing me. I called her. For the first time in months, I called her directly, bypassing the assistant, and when she answered, I didn't let her deflect. "Why are you telling people Robert's kids are yours?" I asked, my voice shaking. She laughed, actually laughed. "Charlotte, don't be dramatic. They're part of my life now. I'm allowed to celebrate that. But you're erasing me, again." "Oh, for God's sake," she snapped, and there it was. The real voice, the one I grew up with. You've never been part of my public life, why start now? Robert's children are accomplished, successful, easy to be proud of. You're a freelance graphic designer living in a studio apartment. What exactly am I supposed to brag about? The words hit like a slap. I graduated with honors, I built my career from nothing, I did all of that without you. Exactly, she said coldly. Without me, so why do you need me now? I don't remember what I said next, I think I just hung up. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 6 months ago at Robert's daughter's engagement party. I wasn't invited, I found out about it from Instagram. My mother, glowing in a designer dress, standing between Robert's 2 kids, caption reading, "My heart is so full. Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her children happy." Her children. I drove to the venue, I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to confront her. Maybe I just wanted her to see me, to acknowledge that I existed. I walked into that country club in jeans and a sweater, completely underdressed, and found her near the Champagne Tower, surrounded by guests. "Mom," I said loud enough to cut through the conversation. She turned, and for a split second I saw panic flash across her face. Then it hardened into something worse, disgust. "Charlotte, what are you doing here?" "I'm your daughter," I said. "I thought maybe I should be here too." She stepped closer, her voice low and vicious. "You are embarrassing me. You show up uninvited, dressed like that, acting entitled to a life you were never part of. You were the worst mistake I ever made, and I have spent 32 years trying to move past that mistake. So do me a favor and leave." The room had gone quiet. People were staring. Robert's daughter looked horrified. Robert himself looked confused, and my mother just stood there waiting for me to break. I didn't, I smiled, a strange, calm smile. "Okay," I said, "I'll leave and I'll never come back, but one day you're going to need me. And when that day comes, I want you to remember this moment." Then I walked out. I blocked her number, deleted her from every social media platform, removed myself from the emergency contact list at her office, at her doctor, everywhere I could think of. If she wanted me gone, I'd be gone. Completely. 6 months passed, I threw myself into work, landed a major client, started seeing someone, built a life that felt for the first time like it was entirely mine. Then last Tuesday my phone rang, unknown number, I almost didn't answer. "Is this Charlotte Hayes?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is Mercy General Hospital. Your mother, Linda Hayes, was brought in an hour ago. She's had a severe heart attack. You're listed as her emergency contact." I actually laughed. "No, I'm not. I removed myself months ago. According to our system, you're the only contact we have. Her husband is unreachable. We need you to come in and make some decisions regarding her care." I sat down on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, heart pounding. "What kind of decisions?" "She needs surgery. We need consent, and someone needs to be here." For a long moment I didn't say anything. I thought about hanging up, about telling them to find someone else, about letting the woman who called me her worst mistake face the consequences of having no one. But then I thought about something else, about the power I'd never had, about the choice she'd never given me. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. When I arrived, the hospital was chaos. Nurses rushing past, machines beeping, the sharp smell of antiseptic burning my nose. A doctor met me near the ICU, clipboard in hand. "Miss Hayes, thank you for coming. Your mother's condition is serious but stable. She'll need bypass surgery within the next 48 hours. We also need to discuss her living situation post-recovery. She'll need round-the-clock care for at least 6 weeks." "Where's her husband?" I asked. The doctor hesitated. "We haven't been able to reach him. Her phone was locked. Do you have his contact information?" I could have given it to them. I had Robert's number saved from years ago. But I didn't. "No," I said. "I don't." "I see. Well, in that case, as next of kin, the responsibility falls to you." Responsibility. The word tasted bitter. She'd spent my entire life avoiding responsibility for me, and now here it was, flipped. Doctor walked me through the details. The surgery, the recovery, the costs if insurance didn't cover everything, the need for someone to make medical decisions if complications arose. Then he said something that made my pulse spike. "We'll also need to inform you that your mother had a DNR on file. Do not resuscitate, but given her current stable state and the success rate of the surgery, we wanted to confirm with family before proceeding." A DNR. If something went wrong during surgery, they wouldn't try to bring her back unless I told them to. My mother's life was now quite literally in my hands. I looked through the window into her room. She was still unconscious, pale, fragile, small in a way I'd never seen her before. The machines beeped, her chest rose and fell. The doctor was waiting for my answer, and I realized something that sent a chill down my spine. For the first time in my entire life, I had the power, the choice, the control. And my mother had no idea what I was going to do with it. Burloom too. I didn't answer the doctor right away. I stood there in that sterile hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, watching my mother's chest rise and fall through the small window, and I let the silence stretch. The doctor shifted uncomfortably. "Miss Hayes, do you need a moment?" "No," I said finally, turning to face him. "Keep the DNR on file but proceed with the surgery. If complications arise, you have my permission to resuscitate." He nodded, relief washing over his face. "Good. We'll schedule her for tomorrow morning. In the meantime, she should wake up within the next few hours. You're welcome to wait with her." I didn't move. "What happens after the surgery, after recovery?" "She'll need somewhere to go. Ideally home with family support. If that's not possible, we can arrange a rehabilitation facility, but those can be expensive and—" "She'll come home with me," I heard myself say. The doctor blinked. "That's very generous." "It's not easy caring for someone post-cardiac surgery. Are you prepared for that?" "Prepared? No, but ready to finally have the upper hand, absolutely." "I'll manage," I said. He handed me a stack of paperwork and I sat down in the waiting room to fill it out. Every signature felt like a small act of reclamation. Emergency contact, Charlotte Hayes. Primary caregiver, Charlotte Hayes. Financial responsibility, Charlotte Hayes. My mother had spent 32 years making sure I knew I didn't matter. Now I mattered more than anyone. 2 hours later, a nurse found me half asleep in an uncomfortable plastic chair. "She's awake," she said gently. "She's asking for her husband." Of course she was. I stood up, smoothed my shirt, and followed the nurse into the ICU. My mother looked worse up close. Her skin was grey, her hair limp against the pillow. The confident, sharp woman who'd stood in that country club 6 months ago was gone. In her place was someone small and scared. Her eyes found me and I watched the confusion flicker across her face. Then the recognition, then something I'd never seen before, fear. "Charlotte," her voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" I pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down, crossing my legs slowly, deliberately. "Hello, Mom, how are you feeling?" "Where's Robert?" She croaked, trying to sit up. The machines beeped louder. A nurse appeared, gently pressing her back down. "You need to stay calm, Mrs. Hayes, your heart—" "Where is my husband?" she demanded, her voice cracking. I waited until the nurse left before I answered. "They couldn't reach him, your phone was locked, no one knew his number." I paused, letting that sink in. "Accept me, but they didn't ask, so I didn't tell them." Her eyes widened. "What? You listed me as your emergency contact," I continued, my voice perfectly calm. "I don't know why, maybe you forgot to update it after you remarried, maybe your assistant never got around to it. But when you collapsed, I'm the one they called, not Robert, not his perfect children, me, the worst mistake you ever made." She stared at me, her breath coming faster. The heart monitor spiked. "Charlotte, call Robert, right now." You need surgery," I interrupted. "Tomorrow morning, bypass, the doctor says you'll be fine, but recovery will take weeks. You'll need someone to take care of you. Someone to make sure you take your medications, help you to the bathroom, cook your meals, drive you to appointments." I leaned forward slightly. "Someone to be responsible for you." Her face went pale. "Robert will." "Robert isn't here," I said softly. "I am. And unless you want me to walk out of this hospital right now and let the state assign you a caseworker, you're going to have to accept that I'm all you have." Tears filled her eyes. Actual tears. I'd never seen my mother cry. Not when my father left, not when I went to boarding school, not ever. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. It was a good question. Why was I doing this? I could have left. I could have told the hospital to find someone else. I could have let her face the consequences of pushing me away. But that wouldn't have been enough. Walking away would have left her with the same story she'd always told herself, that I was forgettable, insignificant, easy to erase. This way she'd have to look at me every single day. She'd have to depend on me. She'd have to say my name, ask for my help, acknowledge my existence. This wasn't mercy. This was the longest, slowest reckoning I could give her. "Because you're my mother," I said simply, "and someone has to take care of you." She closed her eyes, a single tear sliding down her temple. I stood up, smoothing my jeans. "The surgery is at 7 a.m. I'll be here. Try to get some rest." I walked out before she could respond. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone and finally called Robert. He answered on the third ring. "Hello, Robert, this is Charlotte, Linda's daughter." A pause. "Charlotte." "I didn't know Linda had a—" "She does," I cut in. "And she's in the hospital, Mercy General, room 314, she had a heart attack." I could hear him moving, the rustle of papers. "My God, when is she okay?" "She will be, surgery tomorrow, you should probably come see her." I hung up before he could ask more questions. The next morning I arrived at the hospital at 6:30. Robert was already there, sitting outside my mother's room, looking exhausted. He stood when he saw me. "Charlotte, thank you for calling, I had no idea, I was in Singapore for work, my phone was off." I nodded. "She's about to go into surgery." He ran a hand through his hair. The doctor said you've been handling everything. The consent forms, the care plan, I can take over now. You don't need to, actually, I said, my voice polite but firm. I do. She's listed me as her primary caregiver. The hospital has all my information and she'll be staying with me during recovery. His eyebrows shot up. Staying with you, Charlotte, we have a home, staff, I can hire nurses. She doesn't need to, she needs family, I said, looking him straight in the eye. And right now I'm the only family she has who's here. He opened his mouth to argue, but a nurse interrupted. We're ready to take her to the OR. We both followed as they wheeled my mother down the hallway. She looked at Robert first, relief flooding her face. Robert, oh, thank God. I'm here, he said, taking her hand. You're going to be fine. Then her eyes found me standing just behind him, and for the first time I saw something other than resentment in her gaze. I saw dependency. The surgery took 4 hours, Robert paced. I sat in the corner, scrolling through my phone, answering emails, acting like this was just another Tuesday. When the doctor finally came out, he smiled. The surgery went perfectly. She'll be in recovery for a few hours, then move to a private room. She should be able to go home in 3 to 5 days. Robert exhaled, shoulders sagging. Thank God. The doctor turned to me. Miss Hayes, do you have everything ready at home? The medications, the equipment we discussed? All set, I lied. I'd figure it out, Robert frowned. Wait, she's really staying with you? That's the plan, I said lightly. Unless you'd prefer a rehabilitation facility. I hear they're lovely, sterile, impersonal, but lovely. He looked between me and the doctor, clearly torn. Linda should be somewhere comfortable, somewhere familiar. Then she can come to my place, I said. It's not much, but it's mine, and I'll take good care of her. The look on his face told me he didn't believe me. But he didn't argue. 3 days later, I brought my mother home to my studio apartment, the same studio apartment she'd once mocked. Robert had offered to hire a nurse to set her up in their guest house, to do anything other than let her stay with me. But I'd smiled sweetly and said, she needs her daughter right now. Don't you, Mom? And my mother, still weak, still dependent on the oxygen tank and the medications and the strict instructions not to exert herself, had nodded. Because what choice did she have? The first week was brutal, not because of the work but because of the silence. My apartment was small, 1 room, a tiny bathroom, a kitchenette. I gave her my bed and slept on the couch. I woke up every 4 hours to give her medication. I helped her to the bathroom. I made her bland, heart-healthy meals that she barely touched, and through it all she said almost nothing. She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't say thank you, wouldn't acknowledge the role reversal happening right in front of her. Until the 8th night, I was heating up soup on the stove when I heard her voice, small and hesitant. Charlotte, I turned. She was sitting up in bed, her hands folded in her lap. Yes, why are you doing this? She asked again, the same question from the hospital. This time I didn't have a scripted answer. I turned the stove and walked over to the bed, sitting down on the edge. Do you remember my 10th birthday? I asked. She blinked, confused. What? My 10th birthday? You were supposed to take me to the zoo. I'd been asking for weeks. But that morning you got a call from work, a client emergency. You told me we'd go another time. I smiled faintly. We never did. She looked away. Charlotte, I was building a career. I had responsibilities. You had a daughter, I said quietly. Daughter who needed you, who wanted you, who would have forgiven anything if you just looked at her like she mattered. Her jaw tightened. I gave you everything, a roof over your head, food, education. You gave me survival, I corrected. Not love, there's a difference. She finally met my eyes and I saw it then, the crack in the armor, the faintest hint of something that might have been shame. I didn't know how to love you, she whispered. I didn't want to be a mother, I never wanted that life. I know, I said, you made that very clear. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then she said, her voice breaking, so this is punishment, you're keeping me here to punish me. I thought about that, about what I was really doing, about whether this was revenge or something else entirely. No, I said finally. This is a choice, the choice you never gave me. You get to stay here with me and see what it's like to depend on someone who didn't ask for you. Or you can call Robert and go back to your perfect life and pretend I don't exist. Again, her hands trembled. If I leave, you'll never speak to me again. Probably not, I admitted. Then I'm trapped, she whispered. No, I said, standing up. You're finally facing the consequences of your choices. There's a difference. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. She started saying thank you, started asking how my day was. Started looking at the sketches I'd pinned to the wall, the client work I did late at night while she slept. One afternoon she said, "You're talented." I almost dropped the spoon I was holding. "What? Your work," she said, nodding toward my laptop. "I saw the campaign you designed for that non-profit. It's good, really good." I stared at her. "You've never said that before." "I know," she said quietly. "I should have." It wasn't an apology, not yet, but it was something. By week 6 she was strong enough to move around on her own, strong enough to go back to Robert if she wanted, but she didn't ask to leave, and I didn't offer. One evening I came home from a client meeting to find her sitting on the couch looking at an old photo album I kept in a box under the bed. "Where did you get that?" I asked. "I was looking for a blanket," she said. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have." "It's fine," I said, sitting down next to her. She was looking at a picture of me at 7, gap-toothed and smiling, holding a drawing I'd made. "I remember this," she said softly. "You drew a picture of us. You gave it to me and said, 'This is you and me, Mommy, best friends.'" I remembered too. I remembered her glancing at it and setting it aside. I remembered waiting for her to hang it on the fridge. She never did. "I threw it away," she admitted, her voice cracking. "I threw away so many things you gave me." I told myself it was because I was busy, but the truth is I was scared. "Scared of what?" I asked. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "Scared that if I loved you I'd lose myself, I'd become just a mother, and I didn't want that, I wanted to be more." "You could have been both," I said. "I know," she whispered. "I know that now, but by the time I realized it, you were gone, and I convinced myself it was easier to just let you go." We sat there, two broken people in a tiny apartment, finally speaking the truth. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry, Charlotte, for everything, for the things I said, for the things I didn't say, for not being the mother you deserved." I didn't forgive her, not right away. Forgiveness isn't something you can just hand over like a gift. It's something you build slowly, piece by piece, through 1,000 small moments, but I nodded. "I know you are." That night she asked if she could stay a little longer, not because she needed to, but because she wanted to, and I said yes. Not because I'd forgiven her, but because for the first time in my life I had the power to choose, and I chose to give her the chance she never gave me, the chance to start over. 3 months later my mother moved back in with Robert, but this time things were different. She called me every week. She came to my apartment for dinner. She started introducing me to her friends as my daughter Charlotte, the designer. She even posted a photo of us on social media with the caption, "Grateful for second chances." It wasn't perfect. We still fought. She still said things that strung. I still carried scars that would never fully heal. But we were trying, and maybe that was enough. One afternoon she showed up at my door with a small package. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a framed drawing, the one I'd made when I was 7, the one of us as best friends, the one she'd thrown away. "I called your old elementary school," she explained. "They had it in storage, student archives. I thought maybe you'd want it back." I stared at the picture, at my childish handwriting, at the two smiling stick figures holding hands. "You kept this?" "No," she admitted. "I didn't, but I'm keeping it now, and I'm keeping you." For the first time in 32 years I believed her. My mother once told me I was the worst mistake she ever made. But standing in that hospital corridor, holding her life in my hands, I realized something. I wasn't the mistake. The life she built without me was. And now, finally, she was learning what it meant to choose me. Not because she had to, but because, for the first time, she wanted to. And maybe, just maybe, that was the revenge I'd been looking for all along. Not destruction, but reconstruction. Not erasing her, but making her see me, really see me. And in the end, that was more powerful than anything else I could have done.